What if the greatest miracle of your life was being prepared while everything seems silent? During 84 years old, a woman remained invisible to the eyes of the world. No fame, no applause, no immediate responses, but the sky never stopped watching her. Few people know his name, even fewer understand. Why did God choose her specifically to recognize the Messiah when almost no one else noticed? Today you will meet Anna, the prophetess, a woman who waited in silence and was rewarded with a revelation that changed history. Before continuing, write in the comments, "I trust even when God is silent." This simple gesture can touch more people than you imagine. Subscribe to the channel so as not to miss any biblical stories that reveal what God does behind the scenes of silence. Because by the end of this video, you'll understand one thing: God's silence is never absence, it is preparation. For centuries, many names have echoed across the pages of the Bible. Kings, prophets, warriors, men remembered for grand and visible deeds. But among them, there is one name that is almost forgotten, a name that rarely appears in sermons, studies, or conversations. Anna, the prophetess. She did not lead armies. He didn't write any books. He did not perform any signs before the crowds. Nevertheless, its story is recorded in Scripture as one of the most profound and silent, little-known biblical stories. Among so many forgotten characters from the Bible, Anne from the Bible appears discreetly, almost invisibly, but with a role that would change everything at the exact moment. Because sometimes God chooses to act not through those who are most visible, but through those who have learned to wait. And this is where the mystery begins. If you've ever felt that your faith goes unnoticed, write in the comments, "God sees me." Because the silence surrounding Anna is not forgetfulness, it's preparation. And to understand why this quiet woman became one of the greatest hidden biblical revelations, we need to go back to the beginning of your pain, to the moment when her story was marked by loss. Before being known as the prophetess Anna, she was just a young wife, an ordinary woman with simple dreams built to last a lifetime, but those dreams were cut short too soon. Anne of the Bible, he met love, and soon after, he experienced absence. Her husband died when she was still young, and suddenly the future she had imagined vanished. In the culture of that time, being a widow meant more than just emotional loneliness. It meant vulnerability, insecurity, imposed silence. That's why Anna makes the list of male characters in the Bible whose pain is rarely talked about, and of exciting Bible stories which almost go unnoticed. She could have gone back home. He could have rebuilt his life away from faith. He could have allowed the loss to harden his heart. But Anna did something different. She transformed pain into direction, mourning as a decision, the absence of delivery. Thus arises the widow prophetess of the Bible, not like someone who has lost everything, but like someone who chose not to lose hope. And that silent choice led her to a place where her faith would be tested day after day, a place where time seems to stand still, the temple. The temple in Jerusalem was not just a sacred building. For Anna, it became home, refuge, altar. That's where Anna, in the temple of Jerusalem, he began to live not from visits, but permanent. As people came and went, Anna stayed. While many prayed for a few moments, she transformed prayer into a way of life. His routine was simple, yet profound. A life of prayer and fasting in the Bible, lived in silence, far from human eyes. There were no spotlights. There was no recognition. There was consistency. This is how the real ones emerge. Women prophetesses in the Bible, not in the noise, but in intimacy with God. The years passed, the seasons have changed, the faces in the temple were renewed, and Anna continued wings. Time began to weigh on us. The body aged, but the spirit had become increasingly sensitive, because whoever learns to remain before God, learn to perceive movements that others don't see. And while the world went on its course, something invisible was being prepared. The silence was about to be broken. Time passed relentlessly. It wasn't months. These were not ordinary years. They were 84 years old. 84 years of slow steps through the temple corridors. 84 years of prayers that received no immediate answers. 84 years in which the sky seemed silent. For many, this would be a sign of abandonment. For Anna, it was a sign of loyalty. An unwavering faith in the Bible. It's not measured by how much someone earns, but by how much remains when nothing happens. Between Asashidden biblical revelations, this is perhaps the hardest to accept. God often works in silence. Anna did not see any visible miracles. He didn't hear repeated promises. He received no explanation, but he received something deeper, discernment. Each year of waiting refined his spiritual sensitivity. Each day spent in silence sharpened his perception of the sky. And while nobody noticed, Anna's heart was being prepared to recognize that which would change the whole story, because silence was not absence, it was preparation. And then, on a seemingly ordinary day, the invisible began to move. Nothing seemed different that day. The temple continued its routine. People were coming and going. Common prayers filled the air. But something had changed. After decades of silent waiting in the Bible, the sky began to move in an almost imperceptible way. There were no trumpets, there were no announcements, there were no signs in the sky, but there was direction. Anna's heart was troubled. Something inside her recognized that this was not just another day. Among so many mysteries of the Bible, this is one of the most profound. God doesn't warn you when fulfillment is approaching. He prepares those who will notice. A divine revelation in the Bible, it rarely arrives with noise. She arrives with discernment. Anna didn't know exactly what was going to happen, but I knew I needed to be there, and she stayed, because years of a life of prayer and fasting in the Bible, they teach something that words cannot explain. When God is about to act, the Spirit senses it before the eyes see it. And it was in this quiet environment between people who didn't notice anything different, Anna positioned herself for the encounter she had waited for all her life. The moment had arrived. The Messiah was near. Among so many people in the temple, among so many eyes focused on appearances, Anna was the only one who recognized the invisible. A simple couple entered. No thrones, no human honor, just a baby in her arms. To most, it was just another child. For Anna, it was the fulfillment of everything. At that moment, Anna recognized the Messiah. After decades of silence, of a lifetime of prayer and waiting, his spirit confirmed what the eyes could not explain. This was the real one. Anna's encounter with Jesus, not a meeting marked by long speeches, but through spiritual discernment. Among all the prophecies in the Bible, this was fulfilled silently, almost invisibly to the world. Anna didn't need any external signs. She recognized it because she was prepared, because whoever learns to wait on God, learns to recognize when He arrives. And at that moment, all the pain, all the waiting, all the silence, they made sense. But Anna wasn't called in just to provide recognition. She was called to make the announcement. And after 84 years of silence, her voice was about to be heard. Anna's silence was not a sign of weakness, it was preparation. After recognizing the Messiah, the prophetess Anna, he did something unexpected. She spoke, not on impulse, not out of emotion, but why divine revelation in the Bible? That woman who spent decades silent, now there was something that needed to be announced. His voice echoed in the temple, confirming what few were able to see. A prophecy about Jesus, it had come to pass. Among so many educated men, it was an elderly woman, a silent widow, who became a witness to the greatest event in history. This is one of the great ones, mysteries of the Bible. God entrusts eternal revelations to those who learn to wait. Anna didn't speak to crowds. He spoke to those who were prepared to listen. And at that moment, she ceased to be just another presence in the temple and became part of biblical characters who changed history. But his mission did not end there. Because every true revelation, it generates an impact that goes beyond the immediate moment. And what did Anna do that day? Its echoes continue to this day. Anna didn't raise any flags. He did not gather followers. He did not hold positions of power. Even so, she made history among the biblical characters who changed history. Anna occupies a unique place. She confirmed the Messiah before he performed any miracle. While kings sought strength, Anna demonstrated discernment. While leaders sought visibility, she offered testimony. That is the power of women prophetesses in the Bible, not the external domain, but spiritual authority. Hannah proved that God doesn't need armies to change the course of the world. It needs prepared hearts. His testimony strengthened those who were hoping for redemption. His voice confirmed that the promise was real. His loyalty transformed a quiet life in an inspiring Bible story. And so, an elderly widow, almost invisible, it became a bridge between the promise and the fulfillment. But the biggest question still remains. What Anna's story reveals about us? Anna's story doesn't end at the temple. It continues to resonate in every person who learns to wait. In a world that demands quick answers, Anna reminds us that silent waiting in the Bible, it's part of God's plan. She teaches us that silence is not rejection. The delay is not abandonment. True faith is built on perseverance. Among so many exciting Bible stories, Anna's remains an invitation: stay or confide, because God still reveals his purposes. To those who do not give up in silence, if this story resonated with you, write in the comments, "I will stay." Subscribe to the channel to continue discovering as little-known biblical stories and hidden biblical revelations that continue to transform lives to this day. Because just like Anna, you may be closer to fulfillment, more than you imagine.